Okay, so let's talk about the third film. If you haven't watched part one, I'm gonna link that right here. So you can go watch that first and then you can come back. We'll dive deep into the third film and a general connection between the three stories. So the third story takes place in a seemingly post-apocalyptic flooded world, and this world is populated by anthropomorphic cats. Remember in the previous story we had anthropomorphic rats. Here we have cats. The house in this story is surrounded by water that keeps rising, and the landlord, Rosa, refuses to acknowledge the situation. She cherishes the memories from her days growing up there and dreams of restoring it. And in this story, we also have another protagonist struggling financially. So if you remember from the previous video, both the family in the first story and the developer in the second story also struggled financially. As Rosa tries to renovate the home and fix everything that's been broken, her tenants, her two friends that are also her tenants, don't pay rent. One of the tenants, Jen, has a spirit partner whose name is Cosmos. He's a craftsman who comes to visit, and Rosa rushes to employ him and help her fix the house. But soon she finds out that instead of fixing the house, he's actually tearing it apart. He's tearing up the floorboards to build a boat, specifically. And he refits the house against Rosa's wishes, though she's infuriated, obviously. And she ends up, arguing with her friends, and she's kind of hurt that they want to leave the house. But she's too afraid to listen to them. So as the water rises, her friends, Jen, Cosmos, everyone, they have boats to leave. They're ready to depart. And then she has a vision, which we're not gonna get into right now. And after she gets out of this vision, after she comes to, she realizes that everyone has left her, but she's they're already too far for her to swim to reach them. And she remembers at some point that Cosmos had refitted the house in such a way that he also built in a let me find it because I'm totally gonna get this wrong. A giant lever. Yep. And after she pushes it, the entire house transforms into a vessel, some kind of huge boat, like a floating house. And Rosa takes control of this house shape and she sails away. And this is the only story that has a happy ending from the three stories. So we'll get to that. This story could have gone so differently. And in the beginning, it kind of bothered me. With the first two films ending in disaster, the parents dying in a fire in the first one, and the developer turning into a rat parasite in the second story, I could not understand why the third one had a happy ending. I can only imagine how nerve-wracking for the viewer had Rosa remained in the house and drowned with it. I also understand the choice of using anthropomorphic cats in a post-apocalyptic flood. It makes sense. But in the beginning, I couldn't understand why Rosa was treated differently from the writers of the movie, treated differently from the characters in the previous stories. Why was she saved as opposed to the other characters, in spite of her obsessions and struggle to let go, while the rest of the characters were punished? I really want you to leave your suggestions in the comments below. I'm going to get into that in a while, but I also really want to know what you think. This brings me to the main theme of the film, the obsession towards the house. Rosa refuses to accept the new reality, refuses to adapt to the new situation, risking her own life. So attached to the house, and she's afraid to let go, as if, I don't know, like if she leaves everything behind, as if her memories are no longer valid. Why do people get attached to materials in the first place? It's what we all do for some reason, and I bet minimalists do it too. Even more so, considering that they only own things that offer them the most value. They must be attached to their possessions more than the rest of the humankind. Anyway, I digress. All three stories in the film deal with the themes of obsession, madness, loneliness, wealth, or more accurately, the lack thereof, mental health, and the pursuit of a home. All characters that have lived in the house are ignoring the truly important things in life and are only focusing on materialistic aspects, such as having a nice house per se. In each instance, however, the ones that are focused on earning more money or having nice things face the consequences, and this serves as a reminder that the people around you are more important than the things you own or the money in your bank account. From a different point of view, though, those attached to earning more money or having a nice home are all broke or living in poverty. The family in the first story is poor. The developer in the second story and Rosa in the third are both broke. They are all in a difficult financial situation, which leaves them no choice, actually, than to aim for earning more money. When one hasn't covered their basic human needs, wanting more cash ASAP isn't a sin. And although I spoke of the theme of greed in the first story, who's to say that the family wasn't actually starving in their previous life? So having a nice place to live and a warm food on the table every single day without them having to work for it for a change is not only an upgrade in their lifestyle, but it's also the epitome of living in comfort. I think we cannot and must not judge their choices to live luxuriously, even if that meant losing themselves in the process, metaphorically, or turning into pieces of furniture, literally. We should judge them, though, for not taking care of their kids. All I'm saying is there's a totally different interpretation if you look at it from the standpoint of a penniless person. The developer was trying to sell a house, and Rosa was trying to get her tenants to pay rent, which is not that crazy. Both points are very valid. If the developer couldn't find a buyer, he'd be drowning in debt. And what if Rosa had nowhere else to go? She lives in a world that's been flooded. And you see this with victims of natural disasters all the time. Rosa probably didn't have the privilege to pack her life and move somewhere else. So what if she wasn't just attached to the house, but she was just scared of being homeless. What if Rosa was saved in the end as an act of compassion and understanding? And heard within a lie is spun, then lost is truth that can't be won. Listen again and seek the sun. It's important to note that Rosa was the only one who had a support group. She managed to leave the house because she had friends who cared about her and didn't abandon her in difficult times. Although they did leave the house themselves, they didn't vanish. Like even her other friend, Elias, I think, he left, but then he came back for her. So she was never really alone. She had a support group. It's not easy to pull yourself out of the ditch, and having people who care about you is very important in situations like this. And unlike the family in the first story that was being mocked for their poverty, and the developer in the second story who almost got a restraining order from his dentist and was continually, I don't know, threatened by the bank. I don't know, they kept calling him all the time. We don't know what the banker was saying, we only know what he replied. Unlike those two, the family and the developer, Rosa had support. The final thing I want to talk about is the end credits song. At some point it says, a house is just a collection of bricks. A home is a place you never feel alone. This song kind of makes clear what the point of the movie was. And every interpretation I give is automatically cancelled. But I suppose no matter how clear-cut something is, I always dive in deeper. So let's look at that verse for a second. A house is just a collection of bricks. A home is a place you never feel alone. In the first story, Mabel sees the former house as her home, even though she no longer lives there. She's connected to that place. In the second story, the developer, in the end, he lets go of this preppy, whatever status, and joins this cult of destructive bug rats, which kind of opens up the question if he was always meant to be that way, and instead he was just like going along with the norms of society. And now he's finally found his home. Something to think about. And in the last story, Rosa leaves her house behind and follows her friends into the unknown in search of a new home. All these things in the end of every story, no matter how tragic or happy the ending was, everyone ended up at their home, a place, you know, you're not alone. Because let's look at it again. The parents in the first story died inside the house that they longed for, that they adored, the luxury and everything, while Mabel and Isabel were free to go back to their previous house, but I think that was demolished, so I don't know what my point is. Anyway, yeah, if you look at it, everyone ended up where they belonged, which was actually their home, even though it wasn't an actual building. Like in the case of Rosa, she was with her friends, she wasn't alone, they didn't have shelter, but she was home. Okay, that's it with the house. I'm done. I hope I don't come up with any other ideas because, oh my god, my brain never stops working and I really just want it to rest. And I don't want to think about the house anymore. I want to think about other things too. I hope you liked my review and my analysis of this movie. And if you have any other stop motion animation to suggest, I would love to know. I'd love to watch them. I love stop motion. So yeah, send me your recs and I'd be glad to watch them. Thank you so much for staying till the end. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. And he joins this, and he joins